Hey, BookTube, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and I'm so surprised that today is actually nice out. And it's in the 60s. I thought we were going to get rain all weekend, but we're not. So what I'll probably do is I'll go for my run after I finish filming this, and then sit outside on either my back porch or my front porch, probably my front porch, and do some reading. And I really wish though our bookshop was open and they didn't have these new weird hours, but with the pandemic and everything, they have to kind of be careful how, letting people in, and she doesn't want to get I think she doesn't want to get, germs in the books and stuff like that. So unfortunately that's not open, and also they're not taking donations so it's not really the biggest selection there anyway. But so I'm just kind of getting, chilling out, watching Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, the first 3 movies, not the new ones, because it's as much as I love Jack Sparrow, Captain Jack Sparrow, he's one of my favorite characters, because unlike some of my friends, I love all the characters, most of the characters. It doesn't. I think part of the problem with the later movies, is they try to make Johnny Depp's character the main character, and as compelling as he is and as interesting, what made him interesting is not that, he doesn't, even though the actor himself has star power, the character did not work well as a main character. That was the problem. I think that was part of the problem with the other movies, is they tried to make him the main character, and the whole thing with Amber Heard happened, and that just ruined his career, I think. But anyway, so I still love the first 3 movies, and I don't know what's gonna happen. Last I heard they were gonna remake them and everything, reboot the series, and I don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, I did. One of my friends who loves Johnny Depp and is like, oh, the movie is stupid without him. Well, she didn't say that, but basically the implication that 2 of my friends are like, oh, that who cares about everyone else in that movie? Johnny Depp makes the movie, and you can't do then if that's the case, then why did the other movies not do so well, huh? I don't think it was they even tried to get another character in there in one of the movies. That was like a Will type character in the other movies, and I don't know how well that. I just know that those movies the other 2 movies didn't do as well at the box office. Because again, the character Jack Sparrow just doesn't work as a main character. As the star character. But anyway, either way, I love the movies, the first 3 movies, and I don't know if I'll see the other ones. But anyway, I wonder. I never paused. I didn't pause the movie. I still have it playing, so I'm curious what part it's at. Because one of my favorite parts in the second movie is when they're all on the island and Elizabeth tries to do the thing again, and it doesn't work, and Norrington and Jack and Will are fighting it out to get the heart. I love that whole scene and everything. But anyway, so as long I can't talk. Along with that, I'm of course doing my reading and watching YouTube, or should I say BookTube. I have watched a few things because I'm all into because I love WandaVision. That's one of those things that my friend's not gonna watch WandaVision because she might not like Wanda and Vision's character. So who cares about that show? That's not important. That doesn't have my characters in it. Which I know everyone's entitled to their opinion. It's just sometimes it's I feel like she's missing out. But anyway, okay, I'm gonna, enough talking about that stuff. I gotta stop. So, let's focus on the books. Okay, so I am working my way through the Gates of Rome, and I'm so close to finishing this, and I could potentially finish this by the end of this month if I read a lot in the next couple of days. So, as soon as I get back from my run, I feel like I need to, and take a shower and everything, I feel like I need to get some reading done of this. There's 37 chapters, so get up to 30 32 or 34, ideally, by the end of today. It's so funny comparing this book, the size of this book, to my other books that I have from the series. They're like the trade paperback editions. I think this is a regular paperback, and then the other ones are the trade paperback, so they're bigger than this, I think. Again, I meant to look that up. I still have not looked that up, but I need to double check on that. But when it's this size, it's so much easier to read and travel with. The other sizes are such heavy, even though they're not hardbacks. They're still paperbacks, but they're trade paperbacks, so they're bigger and require more effort to carry them around and to read them. I mean, not that they're hard to read, but I mean, as in because of their physical size, they're a bit of a challenge to read them. Oh, okay, that part is coming up. I just heard it because Elizabeth comes to this way. If this was a vlog, this is what I would probably be doing. I'd probably still have it on in the background, but I've been hanging out downstairs today, but we just got to the part where Will has finally caught up to them, and they're on the island where the heart is buried, and Will, and I guess Elizabeth had just found out that it's Jack who kind of sold Will out and sent him on not Barbosa, Davy Jones, and they're on the island, and I get they're gonna do that part where they threaten each other with swords, and the three of them, and I actually like Norrington's character in the second and third movie. Like, he has a lot of great character development. He's a more interesting character by the second. Like, he develops a more compelling character in the second movie, going on the third movie. It's too bad that he died, but he made a noble sacrifice and shows that he's grown as a character and is not as selfish because he cares about the other characters. But anyway, so what's going on in this one is that our two leads, Marcus and Gaius, have been separated. Marcus is going to Greece with Renius, and Gaius is being trained by his uncle, and his uncle is such a horrible human being. He's such a douchebag. Like, his whole mentality, which this is probably common in Rome, this is probably common way of thinking, that he likes Gaius and Marcus are fighting over this, they both like the slave girl, Alexandria. They both start to fall for her, although I think Gaius falls a little bit harder for her than Marcus. I think, and he's all into her, but then she's like, but his uncle tells him, okay, you guys can have your little tumble or whatever, as they say, but then, you have to get a new girl later, or find a noble Roman woman, because it won't look good if you're married to a slave girl. And even Alexandria, when they finally have their night together afterwards, she's like, I know what's going to happen. You're going to marry a Roman noblewoman to be your wife. You're going to have kids, and then it wouldn't look good to have a mistress like me. And, like, it's so sad that was considered normal back then. But, I also like the developing relationship between Renius and Marcus. I mean, we just recently had this other moment where Marcus realized he sees Renius as a dad, as a father figure. Which I thought that he would always hate Renius, and that Gaius would see him more as a father figure. But now Gaius is his uncle, and Marcus, he and Renius are kind of stuck together, and which it's so funny because they start out like he was calling Marcus a whore's son, and referred to him as boy, didn't address him by name, to, defending him, having to defend him all the time and protect him. And even, like, they, on their way to Greece, he's trying to protect this little boy from getting beat up by the crew who wants to be a sailor, and he beats the shit out of the first mate, and, like, he almost gets in trouble, but Renius defends him and is like, I'll keep an eye on him, make sure he does what he needs to do, because he ends up getting a position of being temporarily replacing the first mate. And so the crew tries to get him to do these crazy stunts that he can't possibly win us. things that he'll fail, like getting barnacles off the boat, off the ship, and or like tying the mast or something, and even and like and Rennie's is like, okay, this has gone long enough. I'm gonna help this kid out and get. And he actually, and like I said, Marcus starts to see him as a father figure. So it's very interesting that someone he like at first despised and resented, they grow to have affection for each other and actually respect each other even. Which guy relationships between two males is always so fascinating to me. The two men who just like I guess because I'm not that sex, I'm a woman, so I don't always understand males' way of thinking. So it's just very fascinating to me that they start as two. Like he constantly bullied Marcus in the beginning, and then now they gone to a point where they're actually friends, and there's mutual respect, and he even and like I said, he sees him as a father figure. Marcus sees Rennie as a father figure. So it's really, which I'm wondering if this character Rennie existed, because this is based on historical fact. It's historical fiction, but it's based on fact. Like. So I don't know how accurate, but there is a historical note, and the author said he gave him a sort of childhood. There's not much information on Julius Caesar's childhood. Yeah, and he basically uses the knowledge that he already knows about Caesar, and tries to find a way how he might have learned that as a child, like how maybe something that happened to him as a child is how he has the skills he has. So I shouldn't be reading that right now, but I'll read. I don't know if I'll read that after, or maybe I'll read it like after I'm done filming, or what. But I'm kind of curious what stuff is true and what isn't. And then the only other thing I have been reading is I read the two of the other short stories in this collection. And like I said, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. kind of disappointed me a little bit, and I think because I blame pop culture for that. Like they gave me these high expectations of the story, and it turns out to be like it was not what I was expecting. And that was I read that at the beginning of this year, and also could have just been I read it at a bad time. I should have read it like in the evening, around like autumn. That might have been better timing. But I read the other two stories that after that one. There's 3 stories after that one. So I read The Body Snatcher. That definitely is probably one that I should have read like at night, around fall. But that one takes place in Scotland, and you have these two. It's kind of interesting because it starts out in present day at this local tavern, and our narrator tells the story about this guy this Scottish gentleman who they refer to as doctor, although he's not a doctor in the present. They call him the doctor because he's good at healing, taking care of wounds and stuff. And an old frenemy of his shows up at the tavern, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And they have an interesting, intense reaction. And then we go into the past when the two of them were young men studying in medical school, and they work for this guy, this particular doctor, which I think they like study anatomy or something. And the doctor has having them collect grave rob and steal body parts from dead bodies. And at one point, our main character is like not sure about doing this, but his frenemy kind of convinces him, "Oh, you should do this." Nothing's wrong with this. We are doing this in the name of science, blah, blah, blah. And he kind of reminded me of Victor Frankenstein a little bit. That same mentality of, yeah, it's a little, and maybe it's morally wrong, but it's in the name of science. So it's a little creepy, and like I said, it probably would have been more creepy and interesting if I read it at night around autumn. Maybe that would have been more interesting. And it was kind of cool that it was set in Scotland instead of England. But I mean, Robert Louis Stevens is Scottish, I think. And it was a very interesting kind of and it definitely had a creepy atmosphere. It's just it got ruined by me reading it during the daytime, and this month when the sun was bright and shining, and but yeah, so it was kind of cool. I don't have any strong feelings, I didn't hate it. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. And then the same thing with the other story that I read from this collection, the Bottle Imp. Now I liked that idea a little bit more so than the Body Snatcher, because I always liked the idea of there's always a price to everything, and you can't you may get your wish, but you might not like it because there's always consequences. Those kind of things always intrigue me, and that's kind of what the Bottle Imp is about. This Hawaiian man, he sees this beautiful house, and he meets the guy that lives there, who has a lot of nice stuff. And it turns out that the reason why this guy has all this nice stuff is he has a kind of like the equivalent to a magic lamp, except for it's an imp in a bottle. And like he said, you can get wishes from it and everything. This imp will give you what you want. But there, of course, wishes always come with a price. And on top of that, if you decide you don't like it anymore, you have to sell it for less than what you bought it for. That's the only way you're going to get rid of it, because if you don't, it will just come back to you if you try to get rid of it. So it's like in my Goodreads review I said it was like Aladdin, but creepier and darker, and it's set in Hawaii. Which I thought that was really cool. And I've been to Hawaii before. I love Hawaii. It's so beautiful. I mean, although unlike my dad, I would not want to live in Hawaii because there's not much. I mean, unless you're a surfer, unless you surf and stuff like that, Hawaii's like, if you like the beach, and it has mild weather, temperate weather where it doesn't get too cold or too hot. But there's not a lot. I mean, it's fun vacation area, and the food is good and everything. But I'm just not a huge fan of Hawaii, but I still find it's a beautiful place. And and like I said, if you like the beach, and I do not like the beach. I mean, I have gone to the beach, obviously I went to the Outer Banks, and I like the Outer Banks and everything. And actually, weirdly enough, I like the idea of a beach house. I just don't like the idea of, swimming on the beach. Which, I'm pretty sure that our beach house had a pool that we stayed at back in the summer. Last summer. But, which was so weird. It was just last summer that we did that. But, so I like the setting. It did kind of bug me, though, and another reviewer point reminded me of this. It did bug me that our main character, our main guy, was all like... Well, first of all, he falls in love with a girl. This young woman who's so beautiful and everything, and it immediately is insta love. It's like, really? He was all like, oh, I love her, I love you, and I want to marry you, and it's like, you don't know anything about her. What's her favorite color? What does she hate eating? Like, what's her relationship with her dad like? It's like, what are her quirks? Is she stubborn? Does she like to read? Does she play sports or whatever was considered sports back then? Although she probably didn't, because this was like 1800s probably. What she'd like to do for fun. But then you realize that the woman has not much of a personality. Which kind of like really? And on top of that, like our main guy kept, he got rid of he didn't have the bottle, and he ended up buying the bottle back because he needed to get rid of her. He had, I think, leprosy, and so he needed to buy the bottle back so he could wish that away, so he would be perfect for his girl. And he's all whiny about it, and is like, keeps blaming her. It's like, you made the choice. She didn't ask you to make that choice. You didn't have to marry her. Yeah, she'd be heartbroken, but at least you wouldn't be stuck with leprosy. You wouldn't have to worry about this. And of course, he still proceeds to blame her. It's still her fault that he's in this because she made him do it. It's like, no, you made this choice on your own, dumbass. And it's, it's like, and of course there's one scene where he's talking to a guy at a bar or whatever in the U.S. and the guy's like, oh, you can't trust women with money, and it's like, here we go. But at the same time, it's like, you kind of got it. I feel like, considering the time period and when this was written and stuff, it's like, well, historically accurate, so I don't know what's your limit to that. And I think my dog, he wants to get on my lap. Sweet boy. He's so soft. Poor rascal. He just doesn't have an appetite, and that's usually not a good sign. But, yeah, so I got this done. Next will be the other story is there's two more stories that I gotta read. Markheim and Ware of Hermiston. I don't know. I would have to hear how that's pronounced. So I don't know what those are about. I did look up at one point. I remember looking up Markheim, but I don't remember what it's about. The only one I remember, the first two that I read, those are the only ones I actually remembered before I started reading them, what they were about. So I don't know what the other two. But I'm glad I like them a little better than Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because it's an excuse to, I don't have to necessarily feel too guilty that if I decide to keep this. Because I do like these covers, these Arcturus covers. Hi, Rascal. Okay, the only other thing I need to talk about with you guys is I'm doing Arena. I think I'm going to attempt, first of all, I'm going to read a middle grade book because it is middle grade March. And I'm going to try to read a Mammoth for Mammoth March. March of the Mammoths. But, and then, also, but the other thing I want to talk to you guys about is because you guys know that Taylor Swift just put out 2 new CDs, not like, they were like months in between each other when they came out. And, they're really good, and it's really cool because if you had not listened to them, they have a lot of literary references. Like, she references Peter Pan, Rebecca, Jane Eyre, The Great Gatsby, and of course, in some of her earlier CDs, she has referenced Romeo and Juliet. That's like one of her. I think that's kind of the love story. I think is the one who kind of set her on her career path. Which in that references Romeo and Juliet, but I like it's so cool that and Wordsworth, she references Wordsworth a lot as well, which I'm just kind of trying to check out poetry because I did like epic poetry. I have read the epic poems that I didn't love them, but I didn't hate. I actually but I still kind of really like them, and I would like to read more. Like that's why I got Paradise Lost and Inferno, which is probably like a nightmare. Well, okay, not a nightmare, but it's a bit much to read. And but so far I only bought one poetry. I've only bought one poetry. Emily Barrett Browning's poetry. I haven't opened it up yet and looked at it yet, but I did buy that. I might save that for the next coming months. Oh, okay. So the Kraken shows up. I have my door open so my dogs can come up and down, and then so I can still, and like I said, I put the TV on pause so I can still hear it. But and I also kind of want to start now because I just want to get it because I might want to watch other movies or something when I'm later tonight. I just wanted to get those watched and finish that marathon. But anyway, so Taylor is doing or not Taylor herself, but there's some some booktubers, a group of booktubers, are putting on a Tis the Damn readathon, which is a Taylor Swift readathon, where you have 3 prompts for each of her CDs, and you can collect each of the CDs if you fulfill at least one prompt, one of the 3 prompts. So I'm still deciding what books I'm gonna read, but I was gonna read Gates Room, but I'm almost finished, and it would be awesome if I finish that before the end of the month, because I'm feeling kind of guilty that I haven't read any historical fiction or horror yet. Like, all of my books are classics or fantasy so far these past 2 months. So I'm gonna read. So I want to try and get historical fiction, so that's why it'd be awesome if I could get Gates of Rome finished by the end of the month. But if I don't, I would apply it to for the prompt of the CD Red. One of the prompts is, of course, read a book with red on the cover. And the title is red. There's red down here. A novel, right here, like a subtitle or whatever. So, and I guess people associate Julius Caesar and Rome with the color red, which I think their togas or whatever were red, and their cloaks were red. So I feel like you associate red with Rome. So I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to finish it, but if I don't, then I will count it as for the prompt of red. But some of the books I'm thinking about for the Tis the Damn readathon are Dr. Sleep by Stephen King is a sequel to, and I did start reading a little bit of it. Dr. Sleep is the sequel to The Shining, where, spoiler alert, Danny survives in The Shining, and this is kind of his story as an adult in the aftermath and how it kind of haunts him what happened in The Shining. And I think at one point in the book he's going to go back to the Overlook Hotel, or at least according to the movie previews he does. And I think he comes across a girl who's the Shining too, like him. And these forces are after her just like they were after Danny when he was in the Overlook. And it's his job, and he takes it upon himself to help her, to save her. And I think he's like a therapist or something in the book. Okay, so he works in a local hospice. But the Dr. Sleep is a reference to his special abilities to confront the dying and prepare them for the afterlife. Okay, so he's not a therapist or psychologist, but he works in a hospital and helps those who are dying. And it starts off with when he's taken off kind of not too long after, a few years after the events of the first book. And he's a little kid, he's still pretty traumatized by the events. Of course, he wouldn't be. And he's dealing with, he's still kind of, like, he will only talk to Dick Halloran, the cook who worked at the hotel that also had the gift. He will only communicate with him. He won't talk to his mom. And, he's still haunted by some of the ghosts. Like, the creepy, weird old lady that he saw in the bathroom at the Overlook, he sees her again in the bathroom of his apartment where he and his mom live. And that's kind of where it starts. Now, I haven't gotten beyond that yet. And then also, two of the other books, I might try to fit in the physician in there, which is about a doctor that it's this young boy who becomes apprentice to what are they called? To the barber surgeon. And I forgot this was also made into a movie. Which I'll have to look for it. But and it's all about them traveling together, and he learns some of the tricks of the trade. And I guess a proper surgeon is a traveling surgeon who also can do things like what a like little tricks and fun little things to entertain people, like juggling or putting on plays and stuff. So he's not just a physician, but he also puts on a performance. And I think he goes to eventually. I haven't got to that point, but he goes to. He makes his way to Persia, but as a Christian, he can't go to the Muslim schools, so he has to claim he's a Jew. Like he goes to the medical school in Persia eventually, and he has to pretend to be a Jew because they won't allow Christians to go into the school. So I obviously haven't got very far, but I remember liking it and remember really enjoying it. So I'm gonna read some more. So I kind of want to think about reading this one as well. And then I got the urge to. I was debating between either reading Jamaica Inn or this one, Mary Ann, which was a This was one that. This was. I don't know if that's my folder. That must be someone. That must have been the last owner. I think it has coffee stains on it. I think. I mean, it could have been my fault. I don't remember if it was there when I bought it. You can tell. But it was either between Mary Ann or Jamaica Inn because I watched Murphy Napier's review of Jamaica Inn and got me excited. But the thing is that this one I have not heard about this one. I've heard about Rebecca, of course, and My Cousin Rachel because they were just recently remade into movies. Rebecca was remade for like the third time. I think there were 2 other movies made about Rebecca based on the book Rebecca. And then recently we have the Rachel Weisz and Sam Claflin version of My Cousin Rachel, which I still want to watch that. Even though I prefer Rebecca over My Cousin Rachel, I still liked it. And then of course I've been recently hearing about Jamaica Inn from Murphy Napier, and she kind of got me excited because I wasn't sure if I would like it or not. But I haven't heard anything about Mary Ann. I haven't heard about any of her other works. I've just mostly heard about Rebecca, My Cousin Rachel, and now more recently, Jamaica Inn. So I decided, so it was between those 2, but then I was like, you know what, I'll just go ahead and read this one because I want to read this one, and I was looking for how this would apply to the Tis the Damn Readathon, and if you can't, like, there's a blank space section where you can pick either pick a book with one of the names that Taylor Swift mentions in a song, like Drew or Corey or Rebecca, and I can't do Rebecca because I just read it earlier this month, or Betty. I'm trying to think of the other ones, and Mary is one of the names. So Mary Ann, I'm gonna count, even though it's not Mary, it's Mary Ann, but still it has Mary, so it's the first name in fact. So I'm gonna count it and read it. And like I said, I wanted to read it anyway. And there's prompts like read a book with a number on it. I think in like the 1982 album, you read a book with a number on the title, or I think one of the CDs is like you pick a book that is part of a trilogy, like the 3rd book in a series, or a book that's in a trilogy. And one of them is pick a book that's a myth retelling, and actually the myth retelling one or based on a myth one that I'm thinking about is, let me get it. Is this book. And you guys you've seen this book already. Bartemius Trilogy, Book 1, The Amulet of Samarkand. and it applies to 2 prompts actually. It can be, I don't know if there's a rule that you have to pick 1 book for each prompt, but it is based on a myth, the myth of the jinn in India, and it's part of a trilogy. And actually, I did not realize this, but it's signed. I don't know if I told you guys this last time when I talked, because I know I've talked about this book before. But it's based on a myth. Actually, it's signed by Jonathan Stroud, so I thought that was really cool. So this kind of applies to some of the prompts. I did think about cheating this and use this for, because one of the prompt for the CD with 15 on it, one of those prompts for the song 15 is read a YA book. So I was gonna cheat and pick this one. Although I did look and see if maybe I was wrong. It did, like, it could potentially be more accurate or accurately apply with but our main character Nathaniel's 11 years old, so it's a middle grade. But so I was gonna cheat and just be like, well, he's on his way to being part of that group of people, so that group of readers, so I can, maybe I'll count it. But although he's too young. I mean, he's like the age of the Harry Potter in the first book. But and I do have some YAs, like ninth. Oh wait, no, Ninth House is not YA. But I have at least one YA that I know. Well, unless the Legend of Starborn is a YA, I don't know if it's considered YA or not. It's a retelling of Jane Eyre. But I have, as you guys know, my shelf is now over there. The Last Magician. That's a YA. I don't know if, I wonder if the Dragon Prince is. No, I think that's considered adult. Yeah, at the moment, the only YAs I have are, Curse might be considered YA. But yeah, I definitely want, and I want to read this for middle grade March. So, and then there's so many other books I'm thinking about reading for this readathon. It's so hard to make a decision. I mean, and I get so excited about making this decision. But anyway, so I don't know, but if you are interested, it's going through March 1st through the 31st. So it's the Tis the Damn readathon. If you guys are interested, haven't discovered this readathon, if you're a fan of Taylor Swift, check it out. It's fun, and like I said, I appreciate that it's all month long. Though it's gonna really throw me off if Sam from Thoughts and Tomes decides to host Tome Topple this month. That's gonna be like great. It's a lot of pressure, and that's what happens. Readathons that I get excited about. Also, I try to do one, but then another one that I'm excited about happens. It's like I feel very overwhelmed, and I'm like, I want to actually get a book finished. But anyway, I think I might also read Ellie Brooks's Peace and Turmoil book, the first book in her Dark Shores series. I might read that one as well for this readathon. I don't know what prompt, but I would like to read that one. Well, anyway, so that's what's going on. I hope you guys are wearing your mask and washing your hands or using hand sanitizer at least, and staying 6 feet apart from people, and continuing to still be kind to each other no matter what. Do your best to be, kill people with kindness if you have to. If you like this video, be sure to give a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell notification below if you want to know when I post more videos. And I apologize for that. My friend just responded to my previous text. But I will talk to you all later. Alright, bye!